yesterday, LSU football announced their spring football dates coming up here for this session as LSU will host their pro day on March 27th. They'll have their coaches clinic on April 4th through the 6th, and the lead up to those dates will all be spring football practices that begin on March 5th.
Oh.
So LSU will begin spring football March 5th, and then they'll go multi-times a week there moving forward until the spring, until pro day on March 27th. And then, the spring game will be held on April 13th inside Tiger Stadium. So March 1st, the opening day of spring for LSU, and April 13th will be the day of the spring football game. So LSU makes that announcement yesterday afternoon after their staff is intact, after they have filled out, for the most part, their roster here going into spring, and expect a major offset of the roster as soon as spring wraps. I imagine LSU is going to be very, very popular inside the transfer portal and will be shopping for multi-positions, including defensive back and defensive line. They'll also have to dump some guys as well. I mean, there's going to be some conversations here coming up where, you're really going to have to let people know that, you might want to move on. And it's going to be a lot harder than that, because it's not going to be you might want to. It's going to be you're going to have to move on, because LSU is going to have to get to a number 85 for the first day of fall practice. And they got some work to do. They're sitting at 88 right now, and they're looking to add guys in the portal coming up here in the spring. So, not only do you need to, clear 3 off the current roster to get to that number, you're also going to have to make room for the guys you want. So I would expect that, people are already starting to get the idea of who's on the fence, who's being evaluated in spring, and who it may not make any sense to even go through spring for. Because, there's probably a couple of guys on the roster that, don't deserve to have that scholarship. I mean, when you're trying to do what LSU was tasked with undertaking the last 2 seasons and really, rebuilding a championship level roster where it was, really depleted when Kelly took over a couple of years back, you had to take some guys that may not normally would have held the rope, of held the standard of what it takes to earn the scholarship to a school like LSU. Well, now that you've gotten, the train somewhat headed in the right direction and back on the tracks, it's now time to get back to the standard of, you don't just hand scholarships out to everybody who can backpedal and get out of and get into a sprint. And, I think that's where LSU's kind of fallen back into of, the evaluations are coming and becoming much more
refined,
surgical on who they want and who they're going after. So, they got some work to do from the roster management standpoint. And, you got guys like Austin Thomas and Frank Wilson in the building who are 2 masters of that, understand that and really, successful in that, in that area. So, they got their work cut out for them, but, you got 2 of the best in the business overseeing it. And that's just kind of where LSU is right now.
Yeah, because when you had to rebuild the roster, that's kind of what happens, right? You get some guys that are probably 3 stars that would love nothing more than to play for LSU, got the offer, committed, and you're just trying to you had so many scholarships to give away that at some point, whenever you start building up to year 3, as Brian Kelly always alludes to, it starts looking a little different, where I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you could go down the roster and be like, you've been here for almost 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, where, okay, I hate to do it to you, but could you come back as a walk-on? Like, you can still remain on the team, but I guess you yanked the scholarship from a couple of guys that you haven't seen on the field, whether it be due to injury or due to, we got other guys that are coming in that have already superseded you on the roster and on the depth chart. And so it's just kind of it's the nasty part of the business, I guess. But it's something that has to be done whenever LSU is trying to add elite talent that can come in and play probably for you right away at some key spots.
And these conversations happen every year on every campus in every program, and it's just what the business of college football and really college sports is and really once was. I think with the new model, with the NIL and with the ability to pay people now, these conversations maybe become, less sensitive to the experience. It's more of a transaction. It's more of a business conversation. But this has always been a part of college sports where, there were guys Steve Spurrier was famous for this. He was the guy, I believe, that brought, I didn't know, I had no idea that scholarships were 1-year agreements until Steve Spurrier said that on an interview one time. And it almost took me a while even to fathom what he was saying. It was like, but ultimately what he was saying was like, I got no problem coming to you at the end of the year and taking your scholarship away from you because you got to earn it for the next season. And I was like,
these are 4-year deals.
What? I thought like you got, you got the scholarship out of high school, and next thing you got the degree. Like it was the whole thing. And come to find out, that's not how it works. It's a 1-year deal where you got to prove yourself every single year. Now, the majority of the guys that we talk about all the time that we're enamored with, right, are really no threats to have their scholarship taken away because of their on the field, playing. But there's 8 to 12 guys a year
fighting for a roster spot
that are on the fence. That their life's on the line.
Like,
can you imagine being those parents?
Oh,
you lost what?
We gotta pay for what?
It's how much?
Out of state.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people see like kids get athletic scholarships and they're like, oh well, he's gonna be at that school for the next 3 to 4 years. But if he does not perform in the first 2 years,
especially at a spot like LSU,
right.
or Alabama or Ohio State, those schools like that, he'll be out quick.
The unwritten rule at LSU was always, if you haven't played by year 3, you should leave. Like that was kind of the
unwritten rule.
It was the unwritten rule, but it was the first pitch of that conversation from the coach to the player. Like, you coming in here, like the coach would be, he tells everybody, hey guys, if you're not playing by year 3, we're probably going to have a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're not playing by year 3 at a school at LSU, that either means that you got somebody really good ahead of you or you got somebody really good behind you. And you just can't crack it. And if that's the case, you either need to think of a position change or a school change. And odds are they got the same problem at another position at LSU. So,
this is where the staff also helps you land on your feet a little bit. There's a network of coaches where you can transfer and go. Yeah. Like you'll be able to find another scholarship. It just won't be at LSU. Like it's not like they're throwing them out to the wolves. You still have an opportunity to further your education and have it paid for by a separate school. Like you can see people that, whether it be hit the transfer portal or actually transfer, whether it be like as a graduate student or now with the portal, you can go to another school and it's not as big of a deal as it used to be where you're kind of out. And now you saw, like I said, Frank probably helped Denver be able to get to UTSA just by his network of who he knows and coaching there previously. That probably helped help Denver, somebody that is talented and somebody that you wouldn't want to see leave. It's like, this is not the Denver Harris conversation you would expect to have because he's a 5-star that people should want. These are the 3 and 4 stars fringe guys that you probably can go to a lower level and play. Like a Lindsey Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's the name of the game. Yeah. Look at our boy Shaz Preston. He's about to go off at Tulane.
For sure.
he's about to go off.
He's gonna be one of the best in the country.
I mean,
Still
really.
wanted him at LSU.
In a couple years,
and be a pro.
yeah, exactly. Like in a couple of years, we'll be like, oh, Shaz Preston's going to